Stop caring what people think, the mental freedom nobody talks about. You are living a life that is partly yours and partly theirs. Every decision filtered through what your family might say. Every goal quietly measured against what your friends will think. Every move you make with one eye on how it will be received by people who are not even paying as much attention as you think they are. This is not a character flaw. It is something you were conditioned into from the moment you were old enough to understand approval and disapproval. But it is costing you something enormous. Not just confidence. Not just peace of mind. It is costing you the full, unfiltered, unapologetic version of your own life. The mental freedom that comes from truly stopping caring what people think is not something most people ever talk about. Because most people never fully experience it. Today that changes. Chapter 1: The Invisible Prison. Nobody locked you in. You walked in yourself. And the door has always been open. The need for other people's approval is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior. It influences what career you choose, what you wear, what opinions you share publicly, what dreams you pursue, and which ones you quietly abandon because they felt too risky to admit out loud. And the most dangerous thing about it is how invisible it is. You do not experience it as someone controlling you. You experience it as your own thinking, your own hesitation, your own reasonable caution. It does not feel like a prison. It feels like common sense. But here is a question worth sitting with honestly. How many of your current choices are genuinely yours? How many reflect what you actually want, what you actually believe, what actually matters to you? And how many are shaped by the anticipated reaction of people whose opinion you have never consciously decided to value? Most people, when they examine this honestly, discover that a significant portion of their life has been designed around an audience. Not consciously, not deliberately, but consistently. That's the key. You cannot build a life that is truly yours while you are building it for someone else's approval. The invisible prison is real. But the door has always been open. You just have to be willing to walk through it. Chapter 2: The Truth About What People Actually Think. Here is something that will immediately reduce the power other people's opinions have over you. They are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. This is not a comforting exaggeration. It is a documented psychological phenomenon called the spotlight effect. Research consistently shows that people dramatically overestimate how much others notice and think about them. You walk into a room convinced that everyone has clocked your nervousness, your outfit, your stumbled words. In reality, every other person in that room is largely preoccupied with their own version of the same anxiety. People are the starring character in their own story. You are a supporting role at best. And most of the time you are not even in the scene they are focused on. But even setting that aside, consider the source of the opinions you are most afraid of. The people whose judgment you are organizing your life around. Are they living the life you want? Have they built what you are trying to build? Do they have a track record that makes their opinion of your direction genuinely valuable? In most cases, the answer is no. The people whose approval you chase the hardest are often the ones least qualified to give it. They are measuring your choices against the standard of their own comfort zone. And their comfort zone, by definition, does not include the version of your life you are actually trying to build. You don't need their permission. You never did. Chapter 3: How to Actually Stop. Understanding that other people's opinions do not matter as much as you thought is one thing. Actually stopping the behavior is another. Because this is not purely a logical problem. It is an emotional and neurological one. The approval-seeking response is deeply wired. It is connected to belonging, to safety, to the most fundamental human need to be accepted by the group. You cannot think your way out of it with a single insight. You have to gradually, consistently, deliberately retrain it. Here is how. Start with small acts of independent decision-making. Not dramatic life changes. Small ones. Share an opinion without softening it for the room. Make a choice without consulting anyone. Post something that reflects who you actually are rather than the version of you that performs well for your audience. Do one thing per day that you would do differently if nobody was watching. These small acts accumulate. Every time you make a decision from your own center rather than from the anticipated reaction of others, you are strengthening a different neural pathway. You are building evidence that the world does not end when you stop performing. That people do not abandon you when you stop contorting yourself for their comfort. That your own judgment, trusted and acted upon, actually leads somewhere good. It is not about becoming indifferent to everyone. The people who genuinely know you, love you, and have demonstrated they are invested in your growth. Their perspective has real value. The work is not to shut everyone out. It is to become selective. To consciously decide whose opinion earns a seat at the table of your decisions and whose does not. That selectivity is not arrogance. It is self-respect. You have a choice. Keep organizing your life around a crowd that is barely watching. Or start building it around the only person who is with you every single moment of every single day. Yourself. Chapter 4. The Life Waiting on the Other Side. There is a version of your life that exists beyond the need for approval. And it is significantly better than the one you are currently living. Not because the external circumstances are different, but because you are fully present in them. Because your energy is no longer split between living your life and managing how your life appears to others. Because the decisions you make are genuinely yours, which means the results they produce are genuinely yours too. People who have made this shift describe it the same way. They use words like lighter, clearer, more alive. Not because their problems disappeared, but because they stopped carrying the additional weight of everyone else's imagined judgment on top of their own actual challenges. That weight is optional. You have been carrying it voluntarily. And you can put it down. The relationships in your life will also change. Some people will be uncomfortable with a version of you that no longer needs their approval. That discomfort is information. It tells you that the connection was partly built on your compliance, your performance, your willingness to be manageable. Those relationships may shrink. Let them. The ones that deepen will do so because they were always based on who you actually are. And those connections, built on genuine mutual respect rather than performance and approval, are the ones worth having. This is the mental freedom nobody talks about. Not the freedom from difficulty. Not the freedom from judgment. People will always have opinions. But the freedom from needing those opinions to validate your direction, your worth, and your choices. That freedom is yours. It has always been yours. You just have to decide once and clearly that you are done living for the audience. And start living for yourself. The opinions are still going to come. People are always going to have something to say. But from this point forward, you get to decide how much space those opinions occupy in your life. You get to decide whose voice gets a seat at the table of your decisions. You get to decide whether you are building a life for an audience or building a life for yourself. Here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, make one decision per day without asking for anyone's opinion. Feel the discomfort of that. Sit with it. And notice that on the other side of it is something you may not have felt in a very long time. The quiet confidence of someone who trusts themselves completely. That is your freedom. Go claim it. Thank you for listening to Akor Minds. Subscribe for more and share this with someone who needs to hear it today.